All right, Small and Mighty crew. For those that have been with me for years now, you know I started a writing and producing playlist. I've interviewed viral YouTuber George Horton and film producer Jay Cameron, playwright and entrepreneur, Mark Malera, international screenwriter, Devin Hampton, writer and director. Welcome to another episode of Wake Up Your Creativity with best-selling author Louisa Deasey. Thank you so much for doing this interview. And folks, we have our own interview, so make sure you subscribe in Louisa's channel. It's in the description box because our interview, fire. So stay tuned for her to post that. But Louisa, without further ado, please tell us just a little bit about your history when it comes to writing. You know, what you've been through as a writer and, basically just a quick introduction before we get into the good questions.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Your energy is so awesome. A quick introduction. So I studied writing and editing at university. And I went and I worked as a journalist for a newspaper, for lots of magazines. And then I became a freelance journalist. We all know that newspapers kind of collapsed and then magazines kind of collapsed. Everything moved to the internet and I retrained as a copywriter and communications consultant. I loved traveling like you. I connect with you. And as I was a freelance journalist, I'd written my first memoir. It was a book about traveling around Australia, throwing away all of my belongings and exploring this enormous continent with my boyfriend at the time. And he lived out of his car and he really owned nothing. He was a comedian. And wow. I managed to get that book published, but it was no mean feat. And I had a lot of really unnecessary dramas along the way, very similar to your real estate journey in Ghana. It just totally unnecessary hierarchies and things that weren't told, things that weren't taught to me at university about the publishing industry. But that book did come out, Love and Other U-Turns, my first memoir. And then I think it was 6 or 8 years later, I had another sort of story that landed in my lap about my late father that I just, as soon as it happened, I knew it was a book. And I was determined not to go through everything that I'd gone through with the first book. And I managed to get the deal and write it and get it published, get an agent, all of that very, very quickly. And yet I'm Australian, and not many Australian books get published overseas. But A Letter from Paris was published in the US. It was published in the UK, in Canada. It was a bestseller in Canada, which was really fun. And I now teach memoir, both the writing and the publishing process, to writers all across the world through my online program, The Art of Memoir, which is how we found each other.
Yes. And I just love that because our community is all about each one teach one. You put a course together with your almost 30 years of experience, right? And that each one teach one. Now, I just got done with the second to last month. Like, my book is done, folks. My memoir is done. I'll be sending it to a beta reader. And because of this Art of Memoir course, I'm able to get this story out sooner than I thought. All right. And so for the ones that are impatient, I'm just telling you right now, in the description box, there's a link to a free writing class with Louisa Deasey. Right. And if you decide to purchase the Art of Memoir like I did, folks, oh my gosh, life changing. Make sure you put my name as the person who referred you. OK, because I want to get my credit. I love, whenever I find something exciting and worth it, I share with my community, Louisa. So being an affiliate with you, I'm so excited you had the program, because the way my life has been impacted through your course, like everyone that has a story, that has a vision, that has a literary vision, your course is the course for it. And that's why I had to get you on this memoir. So thank you so much for doing this. Yes.
Well, thank you. I mean, this is why I think people need to hear what you did. Like, you have followed it to the letter, and that's, I think, why you've gotten so much out of it. As you were just saying in our interview, you've followed every step and piece that I have given, and that is why you've been so, it's been a smooth ride for you. And also, I don't have affiliates very often. It needs to be someone who has actually taken the program and received it in the way that it's intended. And I'm just so grateful and happy that you have done it the way that it was intended to be taught. And you came in with the desire that it is there to reach, which is you wanted to know how to write your book and also pitch it to publishers. And the two go hand in hand, but they also, because memoir is a personal story, it's a true story, it requires a lot more deep diving than other types of book, like a fiction or a how-to book. Like if you were writing a book on real estate in Ghana, like how to buy something that wasn't your personal story, it would be a lot less deep and complex. But memoir can be quite deep.
So what could you explain what your true intention of the course is? Like what is your true vision? Why did you do it? And what do you want people to walk away from after they complete your course?
A better understanding of themselves, honestly, in just from a higher perspective. That's what I want. The first thing that came up when you asked me that was when I was writing my second memoir, I was in a lot of different writing groups, and I've done every writing workshop and course that there is, and there's this misconception that memoir must be miserable, that we're telling miserable stories, that it's like living in the past, that it's that it's miserable and self-focused. But it's actually I actually think it is a profoundly transformational experience when you do it right. Yes. And this is why I teach it the way that I do, that you need to start by writing for nobody else but you, and doing that journaling process that I recommend, which is really a spiritual practice. It is just coming back to yourself, coming back to who you are and what you want. Because writing is actually really spiritual. I think it is. And writing our own stories is really, really a deep and spiritual practice. And so if you can come back to your true intentions and your true self and what you want out of life and what you want this story to be, then we go into, the structure of it, the step by step, the foundations, the learning the structure of stories, which is really the reason it's so deep, is because when you learn the structure of a story, you're learning human psychology. You're learning how we process events, how we process experiences, how we process a journey. And that the hero's journey piece of it, which is sort of, also incorporates Jungian kind of archetypes and what I call the story codes, which is just aspects of compelling stories and how we process stories. It changes the way you view your own story. And as an outcome, like a personal, nothing to do with the book, the thing that I want people to get, which I feel like you've definitely got, is a deep understanding and a deep knowing that everything that happens is our teacher. Everything that happens in our life is our greatest teacher, and you are in the perfect spot right now, and everything has been preparing you for this spot, and it's an unfolding and it's an upward trajectory. It is not a miserable I just got to get this out and then out, and I'm going to make more people miserable by getting this
Yeah.
out, and just punishing people by telling everyone about how horrible that event was.
Right.
It's a
And
deeper journey.
and what you said is exactly what I went through. Because even when I reflect, I'm like, I did not go through this for no reason. Like this journey is so ridiculous that there's no way this is there's no way that this was for nothing. And
Yeah.
your course taught me how to literally take that journey, take the lessons, and make it an art form. And that's what
Yeah.
I got out of your the process, because I didn't know what to do, because it started out as a screenplay. I was writing for a six episodic web series. So that's how I started it. So I got up to 30,000 words. And I was meeting with my friends in the industry to give me advice. And I sat with one of my friends and I told her what I wanted to do, because she has connections with DPs, directors of photography, crews and everything. So I was like, oh, I'll meet with her and just establish my team. And so when I met with her, she said, Leslie, this is bigger than a web series. This could be for the television. I said, what? She's like, you need to start off with Memoir. And I said, what is Memoir?
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah. A lot of
clue
people
what
don't
it was.
know that term. Yeah, it's just a true story based on an experience that you've had. And yeah, they're published, and these are these books that we see, the bestsellers. Trying to think of a recent one made by Stephanie Land. That's a memoir based on her experience living on the poverty line.
Right.
But
Eat, Pray, Love.
Eat, Pray, Love. Yeah, Wild
Mhm.
by Cheryl Strayed. I love that book. Oh, God, where are all my memoirs?
Inheritance. Inheritance.
Yeah. Educated by Tara Westover. That's an amazing book. And both my books, A Letter from Paris, and a lot of people get confused because they're like, oh, but I'm writing about other people. So do I have to ask permission, or, because no story doesn't involve other people. No
Right.
personal story doesn't involve other people, but it's all these questions. The thing about memoir is it like an episodic TV series, which you were writing, it is a story. It has to be a story, and it has to be compelling, and it has to have certain plot devices that make it compelling. And that's where people get caught up thinking, okay, so I fictionalize it, do I? Because you're using fictional plot and storytelling devices. But no, it is a true story, and you need to be honest and true to your experience of it, and emotionally honest. And you can change the names or the locations of people if you need to, if that keeps you legally sound. As long as you're saying at the beginning that some names and places have been changed for legal reasons or whatever. But it's a true story told with the structural components of a movie, a fiction novel. It must be compelling. And so in the process of writing it and learning about what makes a story compelling, how do I process stories, what goes into the start of a story, what does the main character go through in the middle of a story, how does the main character reach completion, how do you know when the story ends, what is that final piece, and you are the main character of this story. So you're really learning not just about story and not just about how to write this as a compelling page turner, but about yourself, because you're looking at yourself as the main character. And how often do we do that? How often do we see that we are the main character in this journey called life? Never.
That we are the hero.
We are. We're the hero. We are the everything. We are the lens, the perspective, the
Good.
everything.
So
And
what
if
would you
you
say is the
change that, yeah, sorry.
What you're passionate. I love it. I love it. So what would you say the difference between biography and a memoir? What makes a memoir not a biography?
So A Letter from Paris, my second book, is a memoir and a biography because it's about discovering my late father's life. He's not alive, and he wasn't. He died when I was 6. So it is a biography is someone else's life story that you tell, and a memoir is your own life or experience story. And so A Letter from Paris is told from my perspective. So it is at heart a memoir. It's my perspective, my journey in my voice. It is the main character is me in A Letter from Paris. But my father is a huge character in it because the journey itself of the main character, which is me, was to discover who he was. Like that was the quest I was going on. So a biography, just to put it simply, a biography is someone else's story. So, you might write a biography of a president, for example, and I would be the author, and it's about the president. So it's a biography. And a memoir, the author is the narrator and the main character.
That makes total sense because as I was taking your course, I was like, what's the difference? And one thing that popped up is I'm taking a section of my life. I'm not talking about my whole life. I'm taking the last 4 years of my life and putting an art form to it. So memoir, like memories. So like I'm just taking my story, the memories of the last 4 years, and putting it in a book form. And
absolutely,
yeah. And when I started taking. Go ahead.
Sorry, I keep stopping. No, keep going.
So when I started the hero's journey, one of the courses within your course, I said, "Oh my gosh, I am the hero." And when you brought up the psychology of it, I think at one point when I was putting in the comments, I was like, "Was this destined to be?" I feel like everything is already in order, and I'm just putting everything in an art form. I'm like, did I even have control over any of this?
Well, you did, but see, this is so interesting because when you were talking just before, and when I was interviewing you for my thing, and I was saying, "Oh, where you're at," you were telling me the story of how the Ghana real estate stuff came to be and what you went through. I was like, "This." I'm just seeing every point of the hero's journey as you are telling it, and it's not that your story was, it's not that you have free will. Everyone has free will. But when you start to see this, you understand this lens, this structure to story and the psychology of it, you start to see what exactly I was telling you before, which is that everything is preparing you for the next stage in your evolution or your growth. And this is how it happens. And those naivety points, like going in there and thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to do that." And and then being what you were telling me about the getting beaten up from the people that you paid to.
The physical assault.
Yes. And then that was the YouTube video that went viral. I'm just like, oh my God, this is the supreme ordeal. Boing. And then it's like the big turning point. And it's just fascinating. And I've always loved listening to people's stories and finding those really interesting turning points. I used to do it as a journalist. And I would sort of find myself directing them to tell me the interesting bits. And so it's sort of combined, like the art of memoir and the 90-day process part, it's sort of combined what I used to do as a journalist, interviewing people, with how you put together a book and how I've written my memoirs, just in a course form, because I used to find myself directing people. It was all about the questions I asked them. And if I didn't ask particular questions, we wouldn't get to that turning point in the story. So it's about asking yourself those questions, though, in the writing process.
Yes. And I started the journey as, I'm going to get this out. This is my recompense. This is my revenge. That's how my mentality was. I'm going to hurry up and get this out. And then when I started the 30-day journal that you recommend that we do at the beginning, it totally a paradigm shift to the point where I was like, this is not about anyone else. It's about me and my self-discovery journey. And if this book comes out and becomes a success, that's that's by default. You just happen to get blessed by my life. Like, So I said, wow, this was therapeutic. It is, and it's still therapeutic for me. And I see the bigger vision. So I see me as becoming a better person, deeper diving within myself, finding who I want to be, because that 30-day journal journey totally humbled me. Totally, because I'm on my page, we talk about being emotionally stable and not in a rush. And I was in a rush and I was emotionally unstable at the beginning of the course. But that 30-day journal had me calm down and really realize we're such on a grind. Time is money, America, the rat race. And I said, even though I've been journaling since 15, I'm going to do this 30-day journal as if this is my first journal ever, because I need to break myself down and get all this westernized culture out of me and find out what this journey is really about. Why did I go through all this, right? Why did I make it? Why did I decide to do what I did? And it was just so impactful to where one of the journal entries, it was, I was just bawling because one of the questions was like, what do you want? And after, letting go of my religion, after getting rid of theologies and all these influences from the outside, it was just me and a piece of paper. And I said, Leslie, your slate is clean now. You don't have any interferences. What do you want? And I cried like a baby because I was like, I don't know.
Wow.
And from there, it has just been building layer by layer by layer. And I just get to share this journey in book form. Louisa, this is what you did to me.
You did the work, though. You did the work. And I think it's so, I'm just so glad to hear that, because the journaling process, it's a process of deprogramming and disentangling from the world, the narrative, the programs.
Yes.
And the fact that you could see that there's this hustle culture and this, grind, da-da-da. And it's just about bringing you back to yourself and coming back to who you are naturally, because you didn't start off, you weren't like a 4-year-old thinking, what am I going to do to earn money in the world? You were just playing and like, oh, what do I love?
Right.
It's coming back to your innocent self, your soul. It's like, what do I want? How do I wish to move in the world? What do I love? What brings me joy? And it's just giving you just some prompts to start thinking and asking yourself those questions and spending some time with yourself every day to sit and think about those things. Even just contemplating these questions on your own in a quiet room for 15 to 20 minutes every morning is profoundly life-changing, because you're not just going out into the world and interacting. You're actually just starting from you. And that's where it's got to start. It's got to start from the inside.
And everyone just happens to benefit from it. That's it. Because at first I'm like, oh, I got to go out there, help people, the Small Money crew. And for folks, I love you guys. So I'm not putting you guys down or nothing. But I'm saying I had to rearrange the core beliefs.
Yeah.
And the core belief is, I am the center. I must be healthy in order to give.
Absolutely.
Right? If I'm not full, how can I help a community around the world if I'm not centered and I'm not happy and I'm not, what's the word we use? Content.
Absolutely. And it's that whole thing of the energy in which you do something is the energy in which it is received. So if you're teaching, you said that you talk about, I love it, you talk about emotional stability,
being emotionally balanced and not in a rush.
And not in a rush. And so if you're like finding that you're rushing to help your community not be in a rush, then it's like, well, I don't think they're really going to get it.
Oh my God.
So it's just coming back to yourself.
No.
And also, I love that you focus on emotional stability, because I've been thinking about, how like people do a word for the year. I had my word for the year didn't really come to me until March, and it was nervous system regulation. That's 3 words, but it was regulation. And that's emotional stability, because I just found that I was like going up and down, and I was having like highs and lows, really good highs, but the lows, whew. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to get back to a regularity, because that's where you make good decisions.
Yes.
That's where you are peaceful no matter what. That's where you're content. And that's where you're not rushing and you're not making decisions out of panic and fear. You're making them out of joy and love. And yeah, this is extra. Like, I'm doing this from extra. I'm not doing this because I have to. You
know? I'm about to shout on this video. Because that is exactly what my channel is, right? The mission of my channel is, are you EQ ready? Are you emotionally ready to handle this next journey you're about to take? The people that are going to take that leap to go to a different country, specifically on the motherland. Are you ready? Are you emotionally stable? And are you in a rush, right? Because that's going to carve the decision that you're going to make next. And one wrong decision can have you losing your money, right? And
also,
one right.
The journaling course as well, it's really about getting back in touch with your intuition, because we're not taught how to do this in life. And when you take that time like you did, and you probably cried because you're just like finally realizing, oh, I forgot to ask me what I wanted. And it's like, when you are in touch with your intuition, that's when the synchronicities flow. That's when you start to make these decisions, like just make, contact someone who then just happens to do that. And everything just flows, and it's abundant and lovely. Whereas when you're in, yeah. So that's really what it's about. It's about reconnecting with your intuition, and everyone has it. Just through asking yourself certain questions. And then the memoir itself, like writing it and the process that you've gone through writing it. I'm so not used to being the interviewee, by the way. I just want to ask you questions.
No, really? Sorry.
But I want to know, like, that process of writing it with those stages and storytelling. You can now apply that to so many other stories that you want to explore in your life.
Right.
I want to ask you questions, but I won't. But yeah,
you can go ahead.
I want to know if you've thought about other stories and sort of exploring them with that framework.
I actually thought about that earlier today when I was finishing module 6 in finishing school, and I said, I know the pattern now.
Yeah.
I know the pattern. Yeah. Not only do I know the pattern, I'm equipped to expressing it in a compelling way.
Yeah.
To where it can give the greatest impact. Because it's one thing to just tell a story, and because you don't want it to sound like a bullet point, but if you can have it feel like a roller coaster and tap into the emotions and get people to really dive and look into themselves, that's it. So now I already have books in my mind that's coming next. Yay. And I already know the pattern of what I'm going to use to, share and hopefully, bring breakthrough within my community. Like, it's over. It's over.
Awesome.
It's over.
Like music. I mean, it's like music patterns. And do you play music, Leslie? Like any instruments?
No, but I do sing. So my family sings, and my uncle's a composer. So we do have that strong, we're musically inclined.
You know notes and chords and forgotten what they're called. Scales, maybe, and keys. And it's sort of like that. Like, I always feel like storytelling is like music. It follows notes, patterns. It's pattern recognition. And so if you know the certain patterns that a story takes, and story is emotional. That was the other thing I wanted to say, because the reason a memoir is different to writing a step-by-step guide, which you could do in bullet points, is because story works with our emotional self. We remember a story. Like there's a saying, I think it's give someone facts and they'll remember for a minute, but tell them a story and they'll remember for a lifetime. And it stays in our memory because it makes us feel something.
It
We
goes
cry,
in.
we laugh. Yeah. And that's because story is actually very emotional. And that's why the process of writing a memoir, because it's a story, is very different to writing a guidebook or any other nonfiction. And so, yeah, understanding how your emotions work, well, it's only going to help you in every other aspect of your life.
Right. Oh my goodness, folks. I know you're feeling the heat right now. You are feeling the fire and you're feeling the energy. We just want to live our best lives here. That's it. Louisa, we were talking earlier. She was sharing pictures on her Instagram about just the autumn because she's in nature. Like she left the city. Now she lives in nature on top of a mountain, you said?
Yeah, I'm in a little regional town in Victoria. I used to live in inner city Melbourne, not as big as Los Angeles, but it was a city. And I grew up in Fitzroy. My mum didn't have a car. We just went everywhere. Like I was like within walking distance of the city. But I think after the lockdowns and the pandemic and everything, I was just like, I need to change. And I actually feel like I'm traveling overseas living here because it's so different to where I've come from. I'm not looking at concrete. I'm not looking at man-made buildings and shops and consumerism and drunk people always drinking. Because I used to live in like the heart of bars and pubs and, restaurants and stuff. But the nature's incredible here. There's more animals than than humans where I live.
And now's the reason I brought that up, because we're talking about contentment. We just want to be happy. We want to be in our soft space, in our feminine space, and help men, your masculine space. And we have masculine and feminine energy in us, but we want to be in the soft space. I know I do, right? And that's what your course has given me. It has shown me the pattern so I can stay in my soft space and share it with others so they can live in their soft space as well. Oh my God, folks. Get the memoir, right? Do her free class, because that's how I started. And then I went to purchase the Art of Memoir, and I have zero regrets. I mean, I'm so glad. I truly believe it was divine because one of my friends recommended a UCLA course, memoir course. And I looked into it. I was like, okay, cool. But I was like, I want a one-stop shop. Give me how to write it and how to pitch it. And another friend told me, look on YouTube and see what's there. And when I typed in memoir, you were the first one that popped up. And I said, I hope this delivers for me. And it has exceeded. It has exceeded my expectations. Like I told you earlier, I feel like I'm going to pitch once and it's going to get picked up. That's how confident I am.
I love that. I love that confidence, Leslie. And you've done the work. You've followed it. You've done the work. It's May the 19th, and you started in January. Like this you've been consistent. And I just think that consistency, talking of masculine, feminine, I was thinking about the masculine, feminine this morning, actually, because masculine is structure. I always see the masculine as structure and container. And without a good container, you can't flow. Like you can't flow with the feminine. You can't just let go and receive unless you've got a container,
Come on.
And so that's why I created the course, because I want you to have that container and know, okay, if I just follow what Louisa says, I will get to the outcome. But when you're in that, you can just trust what comes up, and you don't have to feel like, oh my God, this could go forever, or, this is just going to be just completely I can't rein it in, because I give you like the steps to do, and you've done that. You followed it. You used the structure so you could come back to your feminine and just flow. And you use those prompts, and you just, and that's how you come back to who you are, is it's just having that balance of structure and container, and then also just trust and flow. And I feel like intuition and creativity in that flow state is feminine, but you need both, you know.
You need both. Oh, this is so good. This is so good. So in closing, thank you so much for your time. Folks, we've been talking for over 2 hours now. Louisa, if you were to talk to the Small but Mighty crew, for the ones that, you know, they have a fear, you know, they've been thinking about writing and it's been 5-10 years and they haven't wrote a word yet, what would you tell them to click them over? Like what do they need to have in their mind to just start writing?
To just start writing, just trust. Like, trust your higher. Like, if you want to do it, you said it, Leslie. What do I want? Ask yourself, what do I want? And if you have that desire and that inkling, that feeling like you want to create something, then trust that and go with it, and just take one little step and do, you know, what you were doing, Leslie. What you were just slowing down and doing the journaling each day. And it's just that whole thing of one little action every day in that trust, and you'll just build and build and go and flow, and it's just about taking little steps to trust that creative instinct, and moving forward. And thank you so much for like all of your feedback and insights, and just for doing the work. It's so exciting to me to watch someone receive this and do it like the way that I say, and I just can't wait to see what happens with your book. And your story.
Well, teamwork makes the dream work. And Louisa, you are part of the Small but Mighty crew. I don't know if you know it, but you are.
I'm honored. I'm very honored.
Yes. And where can they find you? Besides the links in my description box, where can they find you?
Everything's just my name, louisadeasey.com. On Instagram, I'm pretty sure I'm Louisa Deasey. YouTube, Louisa Deasey TV. It's about making art from everything in our lives. That's what it's all about. And you are the main character. You are the main character.
Thank you so much. I know you're blessed. I already know you're blessed. Small but Mighty crew. This was a big deal, and this is a pinnacle, a shift in this YouTube channel. This is just the beginning. And Louisa, thank you so much for being here and just sharing your experience and your knowledge. And this is, I don't know what you got next, but whatever book, whatever course, whatever it is, right? We just declare prosperity, wealth, and breakthrough for you and your family.
Oh, thank you. And I wish everything the same to you. I just thank you. Thanks.
Join our free newsletter for land updates, group trips, and international real estate connections. Link in the description box. Now available, ebooks and e-workbooks to mentally and emotionally prepare you to visit, repatriate, or buy land in the motherland. And the authentic handmade kente cloth I got from Kumasi, Ghana is now a home decor line made by yours truly. Get a piece of the motherland until you can visit yourself. Click the link in the description box to visit my store.